Hello, welcome back to my channel. So let's talk about Daonte and Lindsay in this last episode. So Daonte thought he was just going to go pick up Lindsay. They're going to ride off into the sunset together and he was going to go take her to Pound Town. But he quickly had a change of plans. So he goes over to Lindsay and finds out that she's staying with this dude named Blaine. And then Blaine tries to outshine Daonte by giving Lindsay this pair of boots. And he's like, oh, these are better than your, boots you had in prison the whole time. And Daonte's sitting there feeling all uncomfortable and upset because this dude's like outshining him, and Daonte didn't bring no flowers or nothing. And he said that he's starting to see red flags left and right, and he expressed his frustrations to Lindsay. He said, I'm not really comfortable with this whole situation. What if you guys decide to get drunk and end up in each other's bed one night? And Lindsay just kept assuring him that he had nothing to worry about. But does this look like nothing to worry about, Lindsay? Does it? Like, I thought it was code. You don't sleep with people who sell dope for you. But one thing I've learned from experience is it's usually the ones they tell you don't got to worry about are the ones that you need to worry about and keep an eye on. So then Lindsay dropped a bomb on Daonte. She said that her friend TC got locked up and she needed Daonte to bond him out. And I had a feeling she was going to do this. She was going to wait and spring it on Daonte right before they decided to get intimate, so he would feel like he needed to do it even more, so he didn't just piss Lindsay off and end up not getting any coochie after driving 11 hours from Virginia to Mississippi. And see, this is just Lindsay testing Daonte. She was trying to see how far she could push him from the jump to see where his boundaries were. And I was watching Auntie's Advice last night, and she said that Lindsay pretty much was initiating Daonte, and that's the damn truth. Like, Lindsay is trying to see how far this man will go for her. Like, look at the look on her face when Daonte agreed to do this. Like, she knows exactly what she's doing. She's trying to see how far this man will go for her. Man, it kind of reminds me what I do when I first get in a relationship, because I do this and I don't even realize I be doing it, but I'll start acting crazy and start stupid fights with someone from the jump just to get it all out there to see if someone can handle me, because dating me is definitely not for the weak. And I'd rather find out sooner than later if this person is strong enough to hang through it. Like they say, if you can't stick through me through my worst, then you don't deserve me at my best. But Lindsay is taking this to a whole different level with testing this man and trying to see how much he can get away with and how much dirty work he'll do for her. So she's already asking you to bond her drug buddies out of jail. Who is it to say it won't eventually get to the point of, well, Daonte, I'm going to need you to drop these drugs off for me and pick up the money? Because she's seeing that Daonte is pretty much willing to do anything for her, and she's realizing how much power she really has in this relationship. And Daonte is willing to blur the boundaries for Lindsay because he only has one thing on his mind, and that's taking Lindsay to Pound Town and knocking that thing off the frame, like he said in next week's episode. So then Lindsay informed Daonte that not only does she need him to bond this dude out, but she also has warrants, and that's why she can't bond TC out herself. And she's from a small town where the cops all know her. And Lindsay revealed that the time that she was in prison, it was actually for a parole violation for catching the charges, but she's yet to face the music for the charges themselves. So then Lindsay, she hits him with the puppy dog eyes and a big fat kiss to try to lay it on real thick to try to convince Daonte to bond this dude out. So Lindsay said, here's the money, go bond him out and bring him to me. And Daonte was upset because not only does he have to bond this dude out, but he has to go pick him up by himself and drive back with a total stranger. And then Lindsay manipulated the situation because Daonte said, okay, so you expect me to drive with these people who have criminal records, and I don't know if this dude's gonna rob me and kick me out of my car. And Lindsay started saying, well, what do you mean these people? I am these people, taking it all personal and using that as a way to manipulate Daonte into feeling bad about the situation. And he even admitted yesterday when he called into Auntie's Advice that he felt obligated to do it after he felt like he said the wrong thing to Lindsay about those people. And he said he felt like he got off on the wrong foot by wording what he said to Lindsay the wrong way. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. He was just feeding off Lindsay's energy and just going off her reaction instead of taking a second to actually thoroughly process and think about things. I think he has valid concerns. Like, Daonte doesn't do stupid stuff or hang with people who do stupid stuff like this, so why should he have to deal with this whole mess? Like, he also said that Lindsay tried to manipulate the situation even further by holding Rachel over his head because she knows how much that Daonte cares about Rachel. And she was saying, well, if Rachel or Derek was locked up, you would do it for them. Well, Rachel and Derek aren't criminals, and Daonte actually knows Derek and Rachel and knows they aren't bad people and people he can trust. So Daonte let Lindsay bully him into bonding this dude out, and he left Lindsay to wait outside of a gas station while he went to pick TC up, and he found out that this dude ended up having holds in other counties. So even if they paid the money to get him out, he would just end up getting transferred to another county instead of getting out. So Lindsay just had Daonte bring the money back and come pick her up. And she was all smiling with a little crooked smile, and she was saying that Daonte just gained points with her because he actually listens and he was willing to do that. And like we said earlier, he passed her initiation, and she said Scott was condescending and wouldn't ever do something like that. But that's because Scott saw through the BS and he wasn't so passive like Daonte. Like, Daonte reminds me a lot of Chaz. They're willing to overlook so much stuff and stay quiet for the sake of not starting an argument to make their partner's life easier and to keep the peace, so they can get some coochie. But the thing is, they both need to value themselves more. Like, a real partner should hold their partner accountable and shouldn't be afraid to set boundaries and say how they feel, not be a doormat for the other person just to walk all over. Like, Lindsay's already probably planning the next test for him, thinking if he'll do this, he'll probably do this, and I can guarantee you she's going to keep pushing and pushing as far as she can until Daonte's either dead or in jail, or until that man finally breaks. And he's already telling her he's willing to accept and put up with a lot and accept a lot that most people wouldn't do or allow. And here's a rule of thumb, Daonte. If you feel like your mom is going to scream, stop the damn bus, or if this is something you don't feel comfortable admitting to your mom you did, or you feel stupid telling other people you did, trying to bond this dude out of jail, then you probably shouldn't do it. Like, you can tell Daonte feels like a dummy now, and I'm sure his mom didn't find out about him trying to bond this dude out until we did when we watched the episode this past week. And Daonte knows better. And he knows what he's doing. He is not dumb and naive. Like, he has to know. I know Daonte has to at least have some kind of awareness, I hope. But this is the real tea. So, I was watching Auntie's Advice last night, and I love her. I usually don't catch her lives, but I came in right towards the end of her live last night where she was dragging Daonte and Lindsay was correcting her in the chat. So Auntie was like, if you want to speak, then come on, let's talk. So Daonte actually called up and was talking to Auntie, and then Daonte three-way called Lindsay. And she was calling Lindsay out, saying she was initiating Daonte and trying to see how far he would go. And she pretty much admitted to it. Like, she tried to deny it at first, but Auntie has a way of getting the truth out of people. Like, she'll back you in the corner with the facts until you have nowhere else to turn, and she'll read you like a damn book. So after a few minutes, she did admit that she was initiating Daonte, but she didn't mean to, and she didn't realize what she was doing it when she did. And then Auntie started calling her out for being manipulative towards Daonte. She said, you were making him feel like he said something wrong when he didn't, as a way to attempt to make him feel more guilty, so he'd more likely bond TC out of jail. And then Auntie got Lindsay to admit that not only was Daonte going to have to bond TC out of jail, but they had a rehab set up for TC and to go to after they bonded him out. So she was just telling Daonte, go bond this dude out and bring him to me. And so Daonte thought he was just going to pick him up, bring him to me. But if that was in Daonte's shoes, I would have been curious. Like, okay, well, what are we going to do with him after I bring him to you? Like, I would think that'd be a little sus. But then Lindsay ended up admitting to Auntie last night that she didn't tell Daonte the full story. So Daonte was going to have to pick TC up, and they had a rehab for him. And then they were going to have to drive 2 hours to take him to rehab after Daonte picked Lindsay back up. And then 2 hours back after dropping dropping him off, and she was gonna wait until Daonte picked him up and TC was with them, and they had no other options, and spring it on Daonte. And Daonte was like, well, this is the first time I'm hearing about this, and this was last night. And Lindsay admitted, like, yes, I held that back. I kind of manipulated the situation. I didn't tell him the full story, but at least she did finally admit that she is manipulative, but she said she's trying to work on it through counseling and other things. It's just crazy because I know majority of us can see it, but Daonte is like Ray Charles to the BS. He's just putting his blinders on, going along with everything for the sake of some coochie and peace. And he's pretty much putting all his trust and faith into Lindsay, a career criminal, fresh out of prison, and just praying to God for the best. And that is just a disaster waiting to happen. But I don't know, Daonte said in his last live that we're not going to see him keep being so passive and allowing things to fly. So I guess there will be no more Mr. Nice Guy eventually, and he's finally going to hit his breaking point. So I'm really curious to see how this whole season goes, especially with, you know, all the things that have came out in between the seasons that happened after they did film. This is going to be a good season, and I cannot wait. But that's it for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts about everything in the comments below. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.